is Dianne Blick. I'm with Keller Williams Hometown Partners Blick Homes right here in Hutchinson, Kansas at the corner of 11th and Main. And today I am at Shepherd Elder Law here in the beautiful First National Bank building at 1 First Main with a great guest today to talk about real estate transactions for elders. Kristen Armstrong, thank you so much for taking time to visit with me today about this and to share with our audience things that they need to know and do when they're thinking about a real estate transaction as we start to transition in life. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Dianne.
Well, so this is great. I love your conference room, and it's a great place to have guests in, or clients in. It's where you meet with your clients.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about if you are a senior in transition or if you're a family member of a senior in transition, things that you might like to know about as you start making those steps forward. But first, let's tell you a little bit about ourselves and how we work together and what we offer as a real estate agent and an elder attorney. So first of all, as a licensed real estate agent in Kansas, I work anywhere in Kansas, but I predominantly focus here in Reno County, my home area. And I also hold a senior real estate specialist certification, which means that I've had certain education criteria that I've accomplished and built a network of peers to work with me in serving elders' needs. So that's a little bit about what I do. Kristen, tell us about what your
what is elder law?
Your specialty in elder law, yes.
Sure. So I practice elder law, and one of the components of elder law is long-term care. So folks who are maybe making that transition to independent living, making the transition to assisted living or to nursing home. So I help with that transition. And there's not a lot of folks around the state of Kansas who are elder law attorneys, unfortunately. So there's kind of a need for elder law attorneys, actually, but that's what I do. And then I also do quite a bit of estate planning as well with that. So, and that's wills, trusts, probate, that kind of thing.
Well, and sometimes that all comes together at the same time because perhaps we haven't quite prepared like we should have in advance, and then we're maybe doing some catch up and some fixing at that time.
It happens with some regularity, yes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I know it does, and I appreciate being able to call on your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the things that we tend to address as we start to age out of our homes or feel like we need to take that next step is we recognize that when things like home maintenance becomes a burden. It could be a major life event that forces us to be making a decision. It could be that aging parents are wanting to be living closer to adult children, or adult children are wanting mom or dad to be closer to them so that they can be helpful. It could be that there are financial concerns that make it difficult to continue to maintain the house on their own. Or it could be that there are support services that are needed that are just not available in the community where they're at.
Right.
So working with, and I say seniors, I mean, I just turned 65, so I'm a little sensitive to that senior term.
I understand. And, the law in Kansas treats people age 65 and over as elderly. And I think that's even worse, to be honest. So.
Yeah, I'm going with it's the new 45, but that's okay. And so I think it's just part of life's progression and the journey that we take and how we deal with that. So selling a home, getting ready to sell a home as a senior can be different in a number of aspects. There are unique issues. There can be other people involved, especially if you're moving into assisted living or a nursing home. There are attorneys that could be involved. There are children that need to be involved. And understanding what all of the alternatives are is also very important. And so that's one of the things that I like to do working with those folks who are in transition is looking at all of the alternatives and what the options are. And then we take a step back and we make sure that we've got the proverbial I's dotted and T's crossed as it comes to things like title, because we have to get a clear title at the end of the day. And so sometimes we don't. Let's talk about some of the things that may have happened.
So what do you mean by clear title? We'll start there.
Well, that the individual selling the home actually can sell the home, that there's no
Right.
one else attached to the title that
Right.
may no longer be with us.
Right.
That's one example, and there are others.
Right, right. So, a couple of things that I see with some regularity is that maybe some children inherited some property. They inherited mom and dad's house. Let's say there's 3 children. One of the children passed away a couple of years ago, but they still had some ownership in that house. And so it's no longer just the 3 siblings and the 3 children who own the house, but now maybe it's some of the grandchildren who own the house with a couple of siblings. And it really depends on how the ownership vested. And was it joint with rights of survivorship, or was it tenants in common? And those are a couple of, it's a very different scenario. So joint with rights of survivorship means that last to die, winner take all, right? So if you and I own a house together in joint tenancy and I pass away, the house is yours. If we own the house as tenants in common, so maybe it just says Dianne and Kristen, if we own the house just like that and it does not say joint with rights of survivorship, then if I pass away, my heirs get my half and you still own your half. And so there's a difference there, and it can be confusing. So,
Well, and generally the initial understanding of where we're at and what we have to do, if anything, or know that it's okay, can be sorted out with a fairly quick review of title.
Exactly.
Which your real estate agent can have the title company do for you. And then if there is an issue, we can run it by an attorney for a quick review and discuss if we need to do something else.
Exactly. One other common scenario, it's not all that common, but I've seen it more and more since moving back, and that is that a husband and wife may own a house together, and they think they own it joint with rights or survivorship. Maybe they bought the house 50 years ago. This has happened. Maybe they bought the house 50 years ago, and the title, the deed, says husband and wife. But it does not say husband and wife joint with rights of survivorship and not as tenants in common. And one of the spouses passes away or passed away 20 years ago, and we think it's the wife's house, but then we find out that she only really owns half the house. And so then we've got some probate matters that we need to clean up. It's not a huge problem. It's just that we've got to clean it up, and we've got to clean it up before you can sell the house.
So, probate.
Probate.
Define probate in a nutshell.
Probate in a nutshell. So
In Kansas.
In Kansas. So it's a process that's been around for hundreds of years, and it's how we transfer legal title from one person to another. So that's what that means. Is if I want my stuff to go to you when I pass away, if I have a will that says everything that I own goes to Dianne, I'll have to probate that will, and then the property is yours.
Okay.
Unless we have a transfer on death deed, which we can talk about.
Well, let's talk about that too,
wanna
because
talk about
often
that?
we run into
Okay.
that. We've run into that a couple times.
All right. So probate avoidance. So how do we avoid having to go to probate court, which is right over here to my right? I can see it from my window in here. How do we avoid going to probate court? One of the ways with real estate is that we can file what's called a transfer on death deed. And the transfer on death deed says that when I pass away, I want my house to go to Dianne. I can even take it a step further and say that if Dianne is not alive, I want it to go to her husband, John. And so my deed would say to Dianne, if Dianne is alive. If Dianne's not alive, then give it to John. Or I could say give it to Dianne's children. However I want to do that, I can set the rules and I can put that in a deed. Then all that has to happen when I pass away is that Dianne would record a copy or an original certified copy of my death certificate at the Register of Deeds office. It's about $43, and then the house is yours.
Sounds really simple.
Piece of cake.
If you do it right.
That's where the planning ahead
Correct.
saves time and it saves
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, it sure does, and we see this quite frequently. And it's sometimes not a good surprise. So you're already thinking about you have to move and you have these things that maybe need to be done, but yet it's a lot. It can be a lot, and I think always my advice when I'm providing counsel and advice under my real estate license to someone who is looking to be in transition is we need to bring in the right experts for you to talk to. We need to bring in the right experienced experts, and I like to be able to recommend someone to go to that has previously solved issues in a great and a great expeditious way so they can answer your questions in ways that make sense. And so we'll talk in further videos in the future about other experts, but again today, I just love being here with Kristen Armstrong at Shepherd Elder Law. How long have you been in this office?
I've been back in Hutchinson for almost 4 years.
Is it?
So,
Wow,
yeah.
it's been that long.
Yeah, pretty close. So.
It's good to come back to Hutchinson, isn't it?
Born and raised here, and this is home. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, back to the issue at hand and some of the things that we have to go through. Do you deal with tax issues at all for clients, or do we refer all of those out to a tax attorney?
I help with some. I do a lot of it in the terms of, not a lot, but I do some in terms of estate tax, estate and gift tax. So two main taxing systems of taxation in the United States. We have income tax and we have estate and gift tax. I don't do a lot with income tax. There's not usually a big need with many of my clients. But with estate and gift tax, it could be something I at least have to know where the traps are and what to watch out for.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha. So when you're starting to work through this, I know I always like to include a trusted family member or a trusted counselor friend who my client is always the person who owns the home, but sometimes it's helpful to have another set of ears or eyes to listen to and ask questions. So I always like to include someone like that for them at their request. Do you do the same?
We do the same. Typically it's a child if they have children. It might be a person that they want to consider appointing under a power of attorney for financial matters or legal decisions. So maybe mom and dad are already moving and they've already made that transition and they need somebody to act on their behalf. So that would be a power of attorney. But almost always when I'm meeting with a client, and my client is always the senior, but when I'm meeting with a client, there's usually somebody here with them as well. Not always, but usually.
Good, good. I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
Going to ask you, is there anything in this short time that we have to visit together that's really kind of top of mind, very critical, that I haven't yet asked you that would be important to our mutual clients?
So in the world of Medicaid law, which is different than the taxation system, so we mentioned taxation and estate and gift tax. That usually doesn't play a role with most folks because the estate tax threshold is so high right now. It's in the millions, multi-millions. But when we're dealing in the world of Medicaid, there's often a fear of losing the home, or maybe we want to transfer a home. So two things I would mention. First of all, transfers for less than fair market value will be penalized by Medicaid. Now, there's some advanced planning techniques and some things that we can do to protect some real estate and some of your assets. It depends sometimes how much time you have. So we have crisis planning, which is when we don't have 5 years, and then there's better planning when we do have 5 years. But know that anytime you try to do something on your own and you give property away, maybe you sell mom's house and you want to pocket the money, know that that's going to be a penalized transfer. The second thing that I would want to mention is there is some thought, and some attorneys and some well-meaning folks might advise you to just transfer your house to your children in advance. Maybe we know that 5 or 10 years from now, maybe we know that mom or dad might need Medicaid. Here's the problem with that. And do you know the problem that I'm going to go with here?
The look back.
Well, not just the look back, but there's the taxation on the house. So we don't get what's called a stepped up basis. We get transferred basis. So if mom and dad have lived in their house for 50 years and they bought that house for $8,000 and they gift it to their son or their daughter, and then the son and daughter sells the house, and maybe they sell the house for $100,000 because all this time the
market value
value has gone up. They now have capital gains tax on that difference there. Whereas if they would have inherited the house when you pass away, or if we maybe used an irrevocable trust or something like that, that can be avoided for.
So the idea is to use the techniques and the tools that we have at our disposal under the law to get things taken care of in advance and right. But if not, there's crisis planning.
There's crisis planning.
Yeah.
Well, there's always that.
Well, it's been really great to sit and visit with you for a few minutes on things that are helpful to our mutual clients. I always appreciate being able to get your advice, so thank you for that. We are here in Hutchinson. We work Reno County and surrounding as well. And we just want you to know that we are here for you. Our phone numbers and contact information will be on the back end of this video. You can find it. We invite you to reach out. And if you'd like clarification or you'd like a visit to know the market value of your home, just start thinking about the process, even if you're a year away. Would love to have that conversation with you. Kristen, thank you so much. I'd shake hands, elbow.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.